In a past essay titled The Three-Body Problem of the Mind, we contemplated three fundamental desires that we all experience: hedonism, individuation, and duty. It was a well-received essay since it struck a chord in those who have felt the chaos of these competing desires. This essay will zoom in on individuation to characterize it through the lens of two archetypical outcomes. In the three-body problem of the mind, we defined individuation in these words. Individuation is synonymous with the peak of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization. It is the pursuit of fulfilling your potential as a human being. It frequently resembles ambition towards the future, and it tends to conflict with hedonism because it embodies the ethos of Alexis Carrel's famous quote, "Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor." To expand further upon Carrel's metaphor, we must find comfort in two truths if we want to remake ourselves into a marvelous sculpture. 1. We need foresight into what the sculpture looks like. 2. Pain is part of the process. As any artist knows, without some form of a vision for a final product, even if it's quite blurry, the medium will remain inert. The marble remains a slab, the sheet of paper dry in anticipation of ink splashes, and the musical instrument impotent. However, this doesn't necessarily mean imposing our will upon the medium will create something beautiful either. Michelangelo described his sculpting process as liberating the figure trapped in the stone. In other words, the marble's innate characteristics enabled him to see what it could become, rather than the erroneous thinking that any piece of marble could be formed into any sculpture. We too must look inwardly to see what type of sculpture we would like to become. There are two antagonistic archetypical forms of individuation that we can model our sculpture after, each dependent upon our innate characteristics: the Cathedral Builder or the Renaissance Man. The Archetypes. To understand the Cathedral Builder, we will explore a brief parable from the early 1500s. In the Vatican City, Pope Julius II had a vision to rebuild an antiquated basilica built in the 4th century, the sacred site where the Apostle St. Peter was buried. It was a project spanning across decades and several iconic designers like Raphael and Michelangelo. One day, Michelangelo was said to take a stroll through the job site, as he typically did to help him contemplate the perfect cathedral. Here he observed 3 bricklayers, each working at a different pace. He asked the slowest worker, "What are you doing right now?" The slowest worker replied, "I'm laying bricks today so I have money to feed my family. Tomorrow I might dig ditches in Bramante's courtyard." Michelangelo made a mental note of this worker's motivations and turned to ask the second bricklayer, "And what might you be doing?" The second bricklayer replied, "I'm a builder. I'm constructing this wall, and once it's finished, I'll begin work fortifying the walls of Castel Sant'Angelo." Michelangelo found the second bricklayer's commitment to his specialty refreshing after his first conversation, but he was not prepared for the third bricklayer's answer when he completed his triumvirate. "Tell me, what is it you are doing there?" The third bricklayer replied, "I am building a cathedral to provide a proper tomb for the Apostle St. Peter and a house of God so great that people across all the lands will pilgrimage to it to join together in worship of the one true Almighty God, Christ Himself. I will lay bricks here every day until it is filled with the faithful." Michelangelo, a man of many talents, found this builder's lifelong commitment inspiring, for this man was no mere bricklayer, but a cathedral builder. Thanks to the help of the Cathedral Builder, St. Peter's Basilica still stands today in the Vatican City as one of the most magnificent buildings in the world. It has inspired other famous buildings, like the U.S. Capitol building. This legacy can be attributed to the skill and precision that comes from those devoting several decades of their life to a particular craft and a lifetime towards their purpose. Cathedral builders are motivated by greatness and characterized by their focus. They can do things nobody else can do because they are truly great at a small number of things. But such a magnificent building could not have been constructed without Renaissance men like Michelangelo. Renaissance. Men were those that fittingly shaped the Renaissance. Through their rediscovery and embrace of classical values from the Greeks and Romans, agency, erudition, and intellectual curiosity, they were able to identify unique connections that could not be made by medieval specialists like cobblers, watchmakers, and even cathedral builders. Michelangelo, a Renaissance man known for his work across sculpture, architecture, poetry, and painting, was one of the minds behind St. Peter's Basilica, but Leonardo da Vinci is often considered the prototypical Renaissance man because of his work across an even larger breadth of domains, including architecture, poetry, painting, mathematics, science, and engineering. For both Michelangelo and Da Vinci, but especially Da Vinci, the embrace of intellectual curiosity particularly characterized their paths across multiple domains. Da Vinci's drive to understand how things work led him to see how everything is interconnected. Sometimes he would observe birds, which led him to explore how flight worked, stimulating ideas for flying machine inventions. Or he would dissect cadavers to fuel his curiosity around anatomy, which informed the subtle facial expressions in the Mona Lisa and the perfect geometry of his Vitruvian Man. Unlike cathedral builders, who orient everything they do around one purpose or goal, the Renaissance man discovers new possibilities because he values the pleasure of chasing his curiosities as an end in and of itself. The archetypes in the modern world. To return to something a bit closer to the modern reader, these two archetypes are sometimes called generalists and specialists in corporate vernacular. However, our archetypes transcend these descriptions. In the corporate context, these are considered roles or masks to be worn. They are skill sets to be honed and developed. Where the generalist wears a mask of breadth at work, the Renaissance man carries this breadth in everything he does. And where the generalist is knowledgeable about each department at his company and each domain in his industry, the Renaissance man can carry a conversation with anyone in his professional or private life because of his erudition in multiple worlds, not just the industry he works within. Where the specialist focuses at his job, the cathedral builder obsesses regardless of his working status. The archetypes of individuation involve a personal journey, not just masks to be worn for 8 hours a day before retreating into a different form. A modern cathedral builder may resemble a Silicon Valley tech founder who wakes up every day thinking about how to bring an idea into the world. He spends 10-12 hours per day working on it, and doesn't bother wasting his time on energy vampires who discuss frivolities such as last weekend's football game, how difficult their job is, or even worse, the weather these days. He is building a cathedral and is destined for greatness, hence he limits his social time. With what little social time he has, he spends his time with other founders who can relate to him or venture capitalists who can help him. Every activity is oriented towards building his cathedral. He may even have a picture of Henry Ford hanging in his room as motivation, for Henry Ford was the prototypical modern cathedral builder, someone whose name outlived his own life due to his unending commitment to reinvesting in his business, even if it meant delaying profits for himself. Our Silicon Valley founder has dreams of building something so great over his lifetime that his name, too, will live well beyond his own lifetime, like the Ford name resting on automobiles across the globe. In Ford's world of the early 20th century, business was driven by intense competition with few referees, allowing for cathedral builders like Andrew Carnegie, John Rockefeller, and himself to crush their competition and build a world dependent on automobiles, steel skyscrapers, and oil. The machinations of today's world are still driven by competition, albeit there are more referees in industry and more games to play beyond industry. No matter what game you play, you probably pursue something scarce, earning enough money to live a decent life, finding the best possible partner despite endless options in front of you, soliciting the adoration of consumers with a finite amount of time and energy, the satisfaction of creating something that comes from your own finite reserve of time and energy, or even the humble pursuit of peace and quiet when the outside world constantly vies for your precious attention. Either way, you generally need to compete, either with others or yourself, to differentiate yourself as someone worthy of the prize you chase. This is the effect of the capitalist society most of us live within. Several essays could be spent arguing about and around this topic, but for the sake of this discussion, we will use our overarching need for competition as justification for discussing what competitive advantages might come with each archetype. Advantages with each archetype. In a world of corporate ladders lined with HR-generated leveling guides, serving as a source of order amidst the chaos of an increasingly complex world, the principal advantage of the cathedral builder is clarity. There is clarity in their purpose, and this definiteness of purpose leads to many advantages. Having a clear vision of the cathedral one wishes to build can be highly comforting, especially in a world endemic with a meaning crisis. Those feeling as though they lack a sense of purpose can feel a spiritual malaise underpin everything they do, characterized by lethargy, lack of motivation, and the anxiety that they should be doing something different. This sense of purpose that the Cathedral Builder has created for himself is valuable in and of itself because it serves as an antidote to this existential malaise and its paralyzing anxieties and depressions. Some of those feelings might stem from unanswered questions like, who am I? What am I good at? Who do I want to be? Those are clear as day for the Cathedral Builder, enabling him to focus on the activities needed to build a cathedral. Where the Renaissance man might become bored of the mundane tasks needed to build a cathedral, the Cathedral Builder thrives since he is more motivated by the end rather than the means. The Cathedral Builder tends to be more persistent, leading to a higher likelihood his cathedral gets built. And through his clear vision for a cathedral and his model of persistence, an idea can be planted in others' minds that the cathedral is important. This increases the odds of enlisting new recruits in the cathedral building endeavor, thereby further increasing the odds of its construction. Due to their focus on building a cathedral, our archetypical hero tends to be unapologetically themselves. This is who I am, and that is who I am not, they can clearly say. Their particular blend of the this they embody and the that they don't may not be some people's cup of tea, but it's just what the doctor ordered for others. And as they grow in their relationships, they may even be hated by some, but they get to experience the joy of being loved for who they truly are, a joy that many do not get to feel. Through their clear vision, persistence towards that vision, and enlisting people who admire their path, cathedral builders can have many doors opened for them, simply because they know which doors to knock on. To return once again to the beloved vernacular of the corporate world and its synergies and circlebacks, the Cathedral Builder would be labeled as a top performer because of his achievements within a specific job. Perhaps he is one of the best software engineers in the world. But the gold standard framework for talent assessment looks at performance and another concept, potential. Potential evaluates how high someone can climb. Where the Cathedral Builder is great at a few things, making them a top performer, the Renaissance man is more likely to be labeled high potential, someone who has more options in front of him because of his breadth of knowledge and skills. This expands beyond the corporate world, but the concepts of performance and potential explain their differences well. The Cathedral Builder inspires others by being great at something, while the Renaissance man generates inspiration by showing the promise of infinite possibilities through novel connections. The potential of the Renaissance man is underpinned by a few advantages: emergence and adaptability. These advantages can best be visualized through a short story. Imagine our Cathedral Builder and Renaissance man are on a long walk together in the woods. At the end of this hike sits something they both desire, perhaps a cold beer as a prize for trudging through the woods for hours on end. Deep into their hike, they find the path in front of them forks. One path clearly leads to a pub, but there are obstacles. They can see areas where progressing on the path requires climbing down steep terrain and another portion flooded, requiring them to go for a brief swim. The other path leads to an unknown destination, as it appears to go deep into the woods. The Cathedral Builder, fixated on his cold beer as a prize, takes the clear path forward, fully accepting that the cold beer requires a descent and a swim. After all, that's clearly what it takes to earn a cold beer. The Renaissance man, on the other hand, wants the cold beer, but his pursuit of it is dependent on the path. He decides he'd rather not swim, so driven by his disdain for the swim and his curiosity of what lies in the woods, he takes the hidden path without worry. So they say their goodbyes and part ways. The Cathedral Builder finds the descent and swim challenging yet rewarding, since he knows it leads him to what he wants. With water still dripping from his shorts, he arrives at the pub and is surprised to see the Renaissance man sitting down with a half-full empty pint. With a chuckle, the Renaissance man casually asks how the swim was before sharing that his path involved a gentle descent through a forest. "It was amazing," he shares. "Deep in the woods, I found a bunny colony. I stuck my head in a few of the rabbit holes but didn't see anyone named Alice. Later I found a patch of roses, which of course I had to take some time to indulge in their aromas. The irony hung in the air for a minute with a slight tension before they both laughed and savored the fruits of their labor. This story illustrates the advantages that can come with the Renaissance man path, how taking a different path that is seemingly disconnected from an end goal can ironically lead one there quicker through emergence, and how avoiding known obstacles through an unknown path can carry its own wisdom through adaptability. Of course, there is an obvious downside. The unknown path could have been a complete distraction with endless loops and obstacles, leading the Renaissance man to be lost in the woods for several precious hours before returning either to the known path towards the beer or back home entirely without it. Emergence is a phrase borrowed from systems theory. It refers to the emergence of new properties when disparate parts in a system interact with each other, properties that don't exist in any of the individual parts. A prime example of emergence is the watch and its ability to track time by sending a steady electric current through a quartz rock connected to several gears. Like a series of gears powered by a battery regulated by a quartz stone, the disparate knowledge and skills acquired by the Renaissance man interact in strange ways within the system of their mind, leading to creative outcomes that can ironically propel them further than the obvious path a cathedral builder may take. Another way to describe emergence is serendipity, and the Renaissance man's breadth of experiences cultivated by curiosity optimizes for serendipitous opportunities, for more meaningful experiences, more ways to explore their curiosities, or career development and progression. This is because someone with a breadth of curiosity-driven experiences and knowledge can find a way to relate with more people. Even people with the most niche careers or hobbies are more likely to feel connected with the Renaissance man and his curious disposition. Where the cathedral builder may find social time to be a distraction from building his cathedral, particularly if it's with people not interested in said cathedral, the Renaissance man finds himself at home. Because to the Renaissance man, home is less of a place and more of a mindset that he carries with him. While it is important to have foresight into what advantages come with each path, those advantages in and of themselves are no reason to select one path or another. It also isn't about what the world needs more of at this point in time. I have my own opinion on how technology trends could influence the needs of the world, but the choice is dependent upon our innate characteristics. Selecting one path because we like its advantages in the modern world would be like if Michelangelo forced each marble slab to resemble the angel Gabriel because Gabriel was trendy at that time. Do we think Michelangelo would have been such a great artist if he imposed his will upon each slab with hubris? Undoubtedly, his mindset around letting the characteristics of the slab shape his vision enabled him to become one of the greatest artists of all time, and we should respect that if we see ourselves as slabs to sculpt into marvelous works of art. Forward vision. If you see yourself as someone on the path to individuation, but don't know which archetypical path may be for you, you can reflect on a few phrases to see which ones resonate the most. The goal here isn't to think about these statements so much as to feel which ones sound most relatable to you. Everyone has something to teach us. Home is not a place, but an attitude. I can accomplish anything I set my mind to. Everyone is a friend I haven't met yet. Everything is interconnected. All I want to do, ever, is play chess. Bobby Fischer. You are unapologetically yourself. You have aspirations to be world-class. Is your time preference short or long? You are easily bored. Another way to think about it is by considering the competitive games you want to play. Do you aspire to become the best at a particular skill or craft? Would you like to climb a linear corporate ladder for years on end? How does it sound to build and scale a business for a decade? Would you prefer to optimize your life for serendipity and unexpected opportunities so those can shape your career? Would you rather measure each day by how much progress you made on an end goal or how much satisfaction you derived from the means? Does the satisfaction of chasing your curiosities sound like a meaningful purpose in life, or do you need more tangible accomplishments in the outside world? Perhaps you reflect on these statements about your disposition and your preferred game to play, but you find a blend of both more fitting. Maybe you are an obsessive cathedral builder for 5 years before building a different one. Building several small cathedrals over the span of a lifetime leads to a deep erudition more closely resembling a Renaissance man. After all, these archetypes are not forms to perfect, but ways to more easily explain ourselves and the world. They are merely maps, not the territory. In Part 2, we will explore the pitfalls of each path.